What is going on YouTube, Inferno family? It's that time of the week again. Flow Friday flow. Well, I've kind of started turning into more of a mini series on some mobility that you can do that are kind of flowish, but again based on my knowledge and experience, the things that I've found worked with my clients in the past. The next run of mini-series that I'm doing is we're going to look at, in particularly, more importantly, the spine. So the spine, as you may or may not know, has 5 different parts to it. So at the top you've got the clavicle, and in the upper middle you've got the thorax, lumbar. This is the area that a lot of people do struggle with and suffer from. Underneath that you've got the sacrum, and then right at the bottom you've got the coccyx. So the coccyx, sacrum are fused, they don't really move all that much at all. The lumbar is the problem area that a lot of people do suffer with, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. So this one, sort of going out to you guys that do suffer with maybe some lower back pain, and you're kind of looking at ways that you can manage it. More importantly, I do find, like with my clients, that a lot of the time it's not necessarily the lumbar that's the issue. It could be a mobility issue or a restricted issue around the lumbar thorax junction or the thorax clavicle junction, or the pelvis not being able to move properly. In many cases, obviously, we do have the sciatic nerve that can fire up, that a lot of people do suffer from, and in my experience, I'm talking to you as someone who has had 2 perforated discs, or bulging discs, and every now and again, if I am a little bit stupid and they flare up, it does give me a little bit of a kick on the sciatic nerve again. So I'm kind of talking to you from that head. I'm not talking to you as a coach. I'm talking to you as someone who has suffered with this kind of thing, and what has helped me overcome or manage the problem if it arises again. Okay, so that sort of kind of brings me into another point of this really is a message to the trainers and the coaches out there that, in my experience, my knowledge, we as coaches and trainers should not be diagnosing people. I think that is wrong for us, and completely kind of really illegal, really, to do that. We are not medical practitioners in any way, and we should not be diagnosing mobility problems of our clients. If you do not know something, you refer it out. Like, I have a string of mentors and teachers that I've learned from, and I know a string of therapists, physiotherapists, chiropractors, dry needle workers that are great to go to, that you can go and help with these problems. But also, if you don't know something, it's perfectly fine to say, hey, I don't know, but I do know someone who might, or I don't know, or you come to me and you've had these problems, why don't you go and get an MRI done and go and speak to your doctor and actually find out what the problem could be, and then we can look at working it. There is absolutely no problem you doing that, and you need to step back a little bit and to kind of realise that as a trainer and a coach, your education may be a little bit limited, especially if you're beginning in your career. Like me, I'm 15 years in, and I will still refer out if I do not know something. And I have some incredible mentors and teachers, guys like Dave Silver, head and lead physio at Cobham Rugby Club. He's also lectures and practices at a clinic in Richmond. Luke Lerman, of course, Muscle Nerds. My mentor in the foundational, fundamental biochemistry, and gives me the understanding and the education to assess things that are going on internally. Again, not to any kind of medical level, but to a knowledge base where I can actually kind of work and make a difference. Guys like Mark Leyland, another great teacher of mine, who works out at Locker 27, of course. If you're in the area and you do know these places, I did level 1 through 4 of applied functional movement science with him. another great source and movement specialist in his own right, so he's a great guy to pick the brains of. And then I've got guys like David over at Body Mechanics right here in Walton-on-Thames. Amazing guy and does great work. So he is a sort of another source of reference and guy that I refer to if I definitely do not know something, and a lot of my clients are testament to that. And then you've got girls like Ellie Wallace over in Reading. She works out the Goddard practice, amazing chiropractor. Highly recommend her if you are having issues. Definitely try and get out to her if you can, if you're in that area or if you're willing to travel. Like, these are great minds that you can like pick the brains of, and like educational reference points like Gary Gray, Thomas Myers, of course, looking at anatomy trains and going into myofascia. Like, these are all points and sources of reading and brains that you can pick up if you're in the local area or looking further afield. You know, and that being said, I do want to help, and from my knowledge and experience and like all the seminars and qualifications that I've been on, I feel that I can like pass on some of that knowledge in a bit of an educational way. I'm not obviously qualified to a medical level, but I feel I'm qualified enough to give you some pointers. But as it said, I do find it wrong, especially of trainers and coaches that do try to diagnose when they really shouldn't do. You know, I can assess movement patterns and like do some gait analysis and work out, okay, this could be that and that could be that and this could be that. But like the reality is, a lot of it is best guess based on my knowledge. And if I really don't know, I'm 100% referring out and definitely sending for MRIs and X-rays and actually kind of establishing what's going on and getting the feedback from a medical practitioner, so then I can make an informed decision of what movement patterns could work for that issue going forward. So yeah, so that's my little rant over with. But you know, I feel that is an important point that I want to discuss at this part of the video, especially as I start to break down some of these movement things. Sort of leading forward. So, coming back, ran over. The spine, fascia joints of the spine. So, as I said earlier, like a lot of people do suffer with back pain, whether that be sort of tightness or restrictions in the muscle groups surrounding those points of the spine, or nerve issues like sciatic pain. And so what I found help with some of my clients is actually breaking down these movement patterns. So like when we're looking at the spine, we have quite a lot going on. So we've got flexion and extension. So if we've got our two facet joints here, we've got flexion tilting forward, extension coming up. So a lot of the time, some issues or tightnesses can arise because, like, especially with office workers who sit at a computer all day, we're constantly kind of in this forward flexed position and internally rotated here at the shoulders. So, okay, we're blocking the extension movement at the thoracic and the thoracic lumbar sort of junction and the clavicle thoracic junction. Okay, so if we're losing this movement, it could potentially lead to some restrictions either down the scale or up the scale. Okay, so or chain, I should say. Sorry. So this is where we then might see a little bit of tightness or pain coming out in the erectors, just at the bottom of the rib cage, or some spasming going on. Or you could even see some restriction in the shoulder girdle, and the scapula isn't wanting to retract and protract properly or elevate and compress properly. So, and that then could lead to some neck issues or tightnesses leading forward. So, you know, these, and there's many different planes of motions. Again, coming back, we've got flexion, extension, which I've just discussed. We've also got rotation of the fasciate joint. The fasciate joints do rotate. So we have to look at that plane of motion as well when sort of looking at the spine. We've also got lateral flexion. So the spine wants to laterally flex left and right as well. So they're the three sort of main planes of movement of the spine. Obviously the sacrum and the coccyx don't really move, they're fused areas. So we are going to try and look at how we can make unsuccessful parts of movement more successful by promoting the successful movement, if that kind of makes sense. You'll kind of get what I'm talking about as we're going on. So what I'm going to look at first this week is the flexion and extension, and then we'll get into some rotation, sort of type 1, type 2 movements, and then we'll get into some lateral flexion movements of the spine. And again, these are all things that you can incorporate in your day, just to get things moving a little bit, free the spine out, so you actually feel like you're not restricting movement too much. And it could potentially help with any sort of slight issues or constrictions that you're having in the lower or upper part of the spine. And I do use this word could because, again, can't diagnose, just best guess. Okay? So, that being said, so coming back, we've got so if you are an office worker and you are sort of sat at your desk all day and you're at your laptop or on your sofa, even worse, with your feet up, laptop on, we're in this internally rotated position. We're a little bit flexed, especially through the thoracic part of the spine, coming into that thoracic lumbar junction. So what I want you to try and do is set yourself up on a little bit of an elevation or a slant. So firstly, what this is going to do is going to fix our pelvis, but it's also going to make our spine a little bit more natural to you. Okay, so you can see now as I've moved my position, come back off the flat seat onto that elevated slant, my pelvis is now fixed a little bit more naturally, and I'm subconsciously wanting to elevate through the fascial joints of my spine a little bit better. So I'm not looking or wanting to be flexed. Okay, so and the easiest way to do this is to try and get yourself into position. I know I've got the luxury of a bench that rises, but you want to try and get yourself into a position where your knee crease is lower than your hip crease. Okay, so if your knee crease is lower than your hip crease, it's going to naturally set the pelvis a little bit better, and you're then in a little bit more of a better place to be to address flexion and extension of the fascial joints of the spine and locking that pelvis in place. So as I said earlier, a lot of the problem could actually come from the pelvis, either trying to move too much to compensate for the lack of movement in the spine, or moving too little in the spine trying to do too much. Okay? So if we fix that pelvis in place, we can then lead with the top of our head opposed to our pelvis. Okay? And then I will show you later on in some other videos how we can change the movement and lead from the pelvis opposed to the top of our head. Okay? So all I want you to do, and we're going to do this 4 or 5 sets to about 20 reps. Okay? From here, I want you to flex completely forward, but lead from the top of your head and your eyes opposed to your pelvis. So we're going to flex all the way forward, reach out all the way in front, and as we come up, we're going to reach up above and then behind. So you can see now, I'm not trying to achieve this range of movement from my spine. My spine isn't leading. I'm trying to, my pelvis. My spine is trying to do the job it's now supposed to. I'm trying to get now extension in the lumbar and thoracic junction to get this reach behind and start to loosen things out. Okay? So again, nice reach, stretch forward, reach up, and lead with the top of the head and the eyes. Don't lead with the pelvis. Nice and easy. So you can see each rep as I go through. I'm wanting to actually get a little bit further and further back. So my now thoracic part of my spine is wanting to do a little bit more work that it's supposed to be doing in space. And it's taking the onus away from my lumbar. And then leading with my eyes and the top of my head is promoting a little bit, not too much, but a little bit of flexion and extension through the clavicle part of the spine to free that up slightly. Once you've done your 20 reps, take a break, a little bit of a breather. If you do work through it quite quickly, it's not designed to be slow. We actually want to promote that movement. So it will actually pick up your heart rate a little bit. You might feel a bit warmer as well, so that's a bonus. Okay? So give yourself a break when you're ready. You can push yourself, if you do have the luxury of a bit more of a slant, push yourself back up. You can see also, I didn't mention this earlier, but I've actually prefixed dorsiflexion of my ankles. I'm actually promoting my toes to push up towards my spine. So I'm getting a little bit of dorsiflexion out of it as well. Okay? So one more set here. So again, I can reach further forward. I've now got a little bit more movement through the facet joints of my spine. My scapula, my shoulder blades are feeling a little bit looser, a bit more warm. Promoting still through the top of my head and my eyes, looking back as far as I can, following my hands, so my eyes, even though I'm leading with my eyes, I'm taking my eyes to the point where I can't see my fingertips anymore in my peripheral. And then once you're done 20, take another break, and then repeat that for another 3 sets, so we do 5 in total. So another great thing with this exercise is it does promote a little bit of a stretch into the hamstrings as well, and a little bit of the glutes. You won't feel it too much, might feel it a little bit. Those that do suffer with a little bit of sciatic pain may feel it a bit more, but it is promoting a little bit of blood flow into those muscles, because they're still trying to contract and relax as you're working through. So even though we're fixed at the pelvis, those muscle groups are still trying to contract and relax. So that's the Flow Friday video for this week. Nice and short, real easy exercise to get on with. A little bit of a rant from me as well. And then next week we are going to come into looking in a similar starting position, but we're going to work through those rotational planes. And then the following week we'll look at the lateral flexion planes, and then the following week we'll look at how we can prefix one of those planes and then move another plane to promote the unsuccessful motion into moving again. So that's going to be the next sort of 4 to 5 weeks. I'm certainly going to look forward to doing it. Movement and mobility is definitely a big passion of mine, and as I said earlier in the video, definitely go back and look at all of those point of references, and if there is something, trainers and coaches, if there's something you don't know, it's fine to say you don't know and refer out, okay? But that's it from me this week. Wishing you all well, hope you're all safe and healthy, and hopefully maybe soon we might have some information on when we could potentially reopen again. But until it comes from the government itself, I'm not going to say it will be on this date if it's not going to be. So until we have confirmation from the government themselves, either via a announcement, TV announcement at 5 o'clock, or on an update on their website, which we've seen none of yet, then we will release some information. But we will keep our fingers crossed that it's going to be sooner rather than later. And for me, I wish you well. Hope you have a good weekend, and I'll catch you on the flip side.